Okay, so we're ready for an introductory sort of discussion and preview of Book Six of the Odyssey, translated by Emily Wilson. And she titles Book Six A Princess in Her Laundry. So if you're wondering how many different topics and subject matters can an epic poem cover, laundry is included, yes. We know yesterday, or the previous reading, was that the brilliant discussion centered on the brilliant discussion I feel between Hermes, the messenger god, and Calypso, the goddess who basically has contained Odysseus on her island for 7 years. And Calypso gives this impassioned speech about the legitimacy of her desires and what she wants, which is Odysseus. So that book ends with Calypso assisting Odysseus's departure. Odysseus lovingly builds a raft. There's incredible storms, and Book Six is about to begin when Odysseus is on a new island. So if you think about it, here's the circumstances that Odysseus is in right now. So he's in a strange place, and as we've discussed and as you've seen throughout your reading, that almost the chorus of this entire epic poem is usually either Telemachus or Odysseus landing somewhere, and the question of how they're treated as strangers, as immigrants. So that's going to come up again. The challenge here, too, is that he's naked, which I know is strange. Calypso had given him clothes to wear. He was wearing them on the boat until the storm, and then was advised, by the gods to take them off because they were weighing him down. So he's naked on a foreign island. He's a grizzled war veteran, naked in a foreign place. So what does he need? I think it's just important to bear in mind when we're in the thick of this difficult poem. It's important to bear in mind the core of what Odysseus wants. And the Greek word for it is nostos, to home, right? To return home. And he's very far away in every possible way, very far away from returning home. So the point of any new place is an attempt to get an assist returning home. So in the beginning of Book Six, we have an introductory to who these people are, which is important when we're starting to wonder how he's going to be treated. So go to the beginning of Book Six in your Emily Wilson translation. It's page 197. So the very opening moment of Book Six harkens to Odysseus' own name. Odysseus' name comes from a Greek word meaning one who suffers or one who feels pain. And here it just says simply and bluntly, Odysseus had suffered. And we can unpack that. It's not simply the fact of the last couple of days of suffering, right? It's a lot of his life. In exhaustion from all his long ordeals, the hero slept. Meanwhile, Athena went to the Phaeacians. The people used to live in Hyperia, a land of dancing. But their mighty neighbors, the Cyclopes, we're going to hear more about the Cyclops people later. So they're the neighbors of the Phaeacians, kept looting them. And again, you're far enough in this poem that when you hear things like looting and pillaging and taking goods, you immediately remember what the suitors are doing back in Ithaca. So there's all these sort of echoes, right, in the poem. They could not hold out. Their king, Nausithous, brought them to Scheria, a distant place, and built a wall around the town. So we're getting a history lesson. Hang tight. And homes and temples to the gods and plots of land. He went to Hades, which is to say he died. Then Alcinous, who has God-given wisdom, came to power. So he's the current king of this place Odysseus has landed. Bright-eyed Athena traveled to his palace to help Odysseus' journey home. He's called a hero in the second line of this book, but what's also clear, maybe this is a part of his heroism, what's also clear is without the assists from Athena, the sort of preemptive groundwork being laid by Athena here, we're not really sure how Odysseus would fare all by himself. So here's what she does. She went inside the decorated bedroom where the young princess Nausicaa was sleeping, as lovely as a goddess. Where did Odysseus just leave? The cave, the bed, the love of a goddess. Slaves were sleeping outside her doorway, one on either side, two charming girls with all the graces gifts. The shining doors were shut, but like the wind, the goddess reached but like the wind, the goddess, Athena, reached the bed of Nausicaa, disguised as her best friend. So this is Athena's latest disguise. A girl her age, the daughter of the famous sailor Dymas. Sharp-eyed Athena said, and we're going to get another sort of set of wonderfully specific instructions by a god, right? "Oh, Nausicaa, so lazy, but your mother should have taught you. Your clothes are lying there in dirty heaps, though you will soon be married, and you need a pretty dress to wear and clothes to give to all your bridesmaids. That impresses people and makes the parents happy. When day comes, we have to do the laundry. I'll come and help you, so the work will soon be done. Surely you will not long remain unmarried. The best young men here in your native land already want to court you." And again, that's another one of those moments where, 25% into this big book, and we know there's other people courting in this universe. We know that the suitors, somewhat crudely, are courting Penelope. They're trying to win Penelope over, right? So all these echoes, pay attention to them. "So at dawn, go ask your father for the cart with mules to carry dresses, scarves, and sheets. You should ride there, not walk. The washing pools are far from town." So this is a little introduction into the Phaeacians, right? And here's Nausicaa. Go to line 56. It's on the very next page, page 199. Nausicaa goes to her father and follows the directions of a person she thinks is her best friend. We know who it is. We know it's Athena in disguise. And Nausicaa says, "Dear Daddy," line 56, "please, would you set up the wagon with the big smooth wheels for me so I can take my fine clothes to the river to wash them?" So, father, there's no pushback on this. It seems like an odd task for a princess to do her own laundry. But anyway, the father gets the slaves to help. Go to line 115, and we see Athena's plan in action, the very top of page 201. They're waiting for the laundry to dry, a very human moment. They're waiting for the laundry to dry, probably on the rocks, and they're playing with a ball, right? It's just a little reminder of the innocence that these are people, as far as Odysseus's experience as you could imagine. Odysseus is a cagey, grizzled war veteran who's seen everything. And these girls are just, doing laundry on the beach, playing with a ball. Top of 201. The princess threw the ball toward a slave girl who missed the catch. It fell down in an eddy. The girls all started screaming very loudly. This is Athena's plan, right? And Odysseus wakes up. And his first thing to do is think. Line 119, he thinks, and these are words of really any immigrant or stranger you could imagine at any point in any history. "What is this country I have come to now? Are all the people wild and violent, or good, hospitable, and God-fearing? I heard the sound of female voices. Is it nymphs, like the nymph he just left in Ogygia, right? Who frequent the craggy mountain tops and river streams and meadows lush with grass? Or could this noise I hear be human voices? I have to try to find out who they are." And it continues here, and there's just this really important moment. Watch this. "Odysseus jumped out from out of the bushes. Grasping a leafy branch, he broke it off to cover up his manly private parts." Okay? But then Homer thinks that's so important that he places an epic simile after that line. So write ES in the margins here, because we get this really creative epic simile. So Odysseus jumping out in front of all these girls is equated to a lion attacking animals. So watch this. He gets up and he covers up his private parts. And Homer says, "This is just as a mountain lion trusts its strength. And beaten by the rain and wind, like Odysseus, its eyes burn bright as it attacks the cows or sheep or wild deer, and hunger drives it on to try the sturdy pens of sheep. So need impelled Odysseus to come upon the girls with pretty hair." So the similarity between the lion And Odysseus is not that Odysseus is going to attack the girls. It's that there's a life and death need to approach them, just there's a life and death need for the lion to eat. And curiously, as you read down the page, Odysseus does not look at his best, but on line 139, Homer says, "But Nausicaa stayed still. All of her friends are freaking out, and she stayed still. Athena made her legs stop trembling and gave her courage in her heart." So Nausicaa is a young, innocent girl, but she's not weak. Now, a really clever speech. This is a really nice window into Odysseus here. We know he's known for his metis, his cleverness. But, he's a stranger wearing just a branch. And he's, big, strong, older guy coming across these younger women. So watch what he does. And it says here, with calculated flattery. I'm on the top of page 202, line 149. He approaches this, probably a teenage girl. "My lady, please, are you divine or human?" It's like a bad pickup line, right? But watch. "If you are some great goddess from the sky, you look like Zeus's daughter, Artemis. You are as tall and beautiful as she. But if you live on earth and are human, your mother and father must be lucky. Your brothers also, lucky 3 times over. Their hearts must be delighted seeing you. Their flourishing new sprout, the dancer's leader, and that man will be luckiest by far who takes you home with dowry as his bride. This next line's one of the most surprising lines in the entire poem. Odysseus tells this girl who he just met, "I have seen no one like you. Never. No one." So that line's worth thinking about, I would argue. He has lived for years with a beautiful queen whom he misses. He saw Helen of Troy. He spent 7 years with an immortal goddess. And he looks at a teenage girl on a beach and says, "I've seen no one like you, never, no one." So that's worth talking about. Is he telling the truth, or is he flattering her to get something? "My eyes are dazzled when I look at you. I traveled once to Delos on my way to war and suffering. My troops marched with me. Beside Apollo's altar sprang a sapling, a fresh young palm. I gazed at it and marveled. I never saw so magical a tree. My lady, you transfix me that same way. I am in awe of you. Afraid to touch your knees." Underline that. In this world, if you were supplicant, if you were bowing to someone's mercy, you would actually hug their knees. It wasn't a sexual act. It wasn't, come on. It was a sign that you are desperate for help. Odysseus is even afraid to do that. He says, "But I am desperate. I came from Ogygia, and for 20 days, storm winds and waves were driving me." So this is the truth, right? We're used to characters showing up and inventing histories for themselves, but this is true. "Adrift until yesterday, some god washed me up right here, perhaps to meet more suffering. I think my troubles will not end until the gods have done their all. My lady, pity me. Battered and wrecked, I come to you first, and I know no one else in this whole country. Show me the town. Give me some rags to wear, if you brought any clothes with you when you came here. So may the gods grant all your heart's desires." This is his sort of closing argument. If you do what I need you to do, that I pray that the gods take care of you and give you what you want. And then he imagines what she wants: a home and husband, somebody like-minded. But then watch this, super important. Odysseus kind of riffs off that idea and he says, "For nothing could be better than when 2 live in one house," right? Something he hasn't had for almost 20 years. "Their minds in harmony, husband and wife." Think of what's said there and think of what's not said there. Interesting. "Their enemies are jealous, their friends delighted, and they have great honor." Now Nausicaa's response, equally surprising. Maybe he approaches a teenage girl and thinks flattery's enough. It sort of reminds me in that chapter in Milton's Paradise Lost where Satan as the serpent goes up to Eve for the first time and just figures, great, this is a ditzy girl, I'm just going to flatter her. And it ends up taking several tries to get her to eat the apple, and he has to unleash all of his rhetorical skills to get her to do it. this might be the kind of the first example of that in Western literature. Watch this. This is Nausicaa's response. Then white-armed Nausicaa, that's a sign that she doesn't work, right? She doesn't do laundry most of the time in the sunlight. She's wealthy. Nausicaa replied, well, stranger, you seem a brave and clever man. You know that Zeus apportions happiness to people, to good and bad, each one as he decides. And then this is like a blunt punch in the face, this line. Your troubles come from him, and you must bear them. Right? Nausicaa in these days would not be a guidance counselor or a psychotherapist, right? Suck it up, right? But then watch what she does. She's not without heart. She says, but since you've arrived here in our land, you will not lack for clothes or anything a person needs in times of desperation. I'll show you the town. The people here are called the Phaeacians, and I am the daughter of the great king Alcinous, on whom depends the strength and power of our people. Now, the girls end up running away, and curiously, she doesn't. She doesn't run away. She's strong. And that's her response. She doesn't really succumb to the flattery. She kind of acknowledges this is a stranger and we have a certain job when a stranger appears. So if you go to line 255, this is page 205, line 255. Nausicaa gives him some suggestions. This is her hometown. So she gives him sort of a play-by-play, and she gives him a little note about the sort of code and ethic of their town. Their town is known for sails and ships and oars. They're men and women of the sea, which means they worship Poseidon the most ardently. So if you go to line 267, she references Poseidon's shrine. You can imagine what Odysseus is thinking. I landed in a place and I need their help, and the god that they're closest to is my enemy. But that's what it is, right? So she ends up giving suggestions about how to win over her mother, how to win over her father. And I just want to point out Odysseus's prayer near the end of the chapter. They go to the sanctuary of Athena, and he prays to the god who's taking care of him. He knows this. So the last stanza on page 207, line 325 or so. Hear me, daughter of Zeus, unvanquished queen. If ever when that earth shaker god was wrecking me, you helped me. He's talking about Poseidon. May they pity me and give me kind welcome in Phaeacia. So thank you for past help. I pray for future help. He's praying the exact right way. And then watch this little ending. And Athena heard him, but did not yet appear to him, respecting her own brother in his fury against Odysseus till he reached home. There's a code among the gods. So even though this chapter seems like it's about something trivial, laundry, it ends up being a set of some pretty interesting conversations. So what I ask my students to write about after we listen to this in class is maybe the primary fact of this chapter, which is, on one level, this chapter is not necessary. As I write here, Homer could have brought Odysseus to the Phaeacian court to Alcinous way more quickly and efficiently than this, rather than have this entire chapter about laundry and a ball getting lost and a scream and a kind of a weird conversation between a grizzled war veteran and a teenage girl. And so I'm just suggesting that when you're in the middle of a great book and something seems unnecessary, stop and ask, what might the author be doing with this? So what might be a good conversation topic, and feel free to comment on this page with your thoughts, is, why do you think Homer includes this chapter? I hope this preview video for book 6 helped, and happy reading.